Yes, welcome to another lesson. In this video I want to talk about the creation of the dinosaurs. When they were created, what they were created for, and the comparison of these terrible lizards that. The definition of the word dinosaur has its Greek origin, that Dainos is terrible, and Sauros is lizard, this kingdom of lizards that God created before human beings. Why did he make them, and why does he compare them to the biblical devil, which is a race that is the world elite, that controls the powers, more generally, the European powers of the times of the colonies? Which are these ones here? These European powers are what the Bible calls the devil, which is a race. The race in the Bible calls it the Edomite or Esau, which in general is the white race. Why does God compare these dinosaurs, these terrible lizards, to the biblical devil? And what I plan to do is first cover a little about the creation, that several books talk about the creation of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth day, that one day is 1,000 years, the first 5,000 years of creation. Let's talk about that, and when were they created, the dinosaurs, and then how they are compared to the Edomites. The biblical devil? The best book to start at is 2nd Esdras. Why? They describe, well, Esdras describes the types of dinosaurs that God created. He doesn't go into detail, but two types of dinosaurs that God created, here in 2nd Book of Esdras. He calls them Enoch and tells you it is a herbivore, and describes the carnivore, Leviathan. That if you notice among the dinosaurs there are carnivores and herbivores. So we are going to start talking about this on the day the dinosaurs were created. I think I am going to read the 4th day here. What I like about 2nd Esdras is that he says he tells you the 4th day, and then he describes what happened on the 4th day in Genesis. He tells you first what God did, and lastly he tells you that was the 4th day, and then he says, and on the 5th day he created the dinosaurs, and that was the 5th day, and on the 6th day he created Adam and Eve and human beings, and later you realize that that was the 6th day. Here he tells you at the beginning, on the 4th day you raised with your commandment the light of the sun and the moon and the orders of the stars. Then on the 4th day, which is after 3,000 years, the beginning of the 4,000 years, the sun and the moon were created. Then before he created the sun and the moon and the stars, land and water already existed. So it was a world of ice, what scientists call the Ice Age. What scientists call the Ice Age, and the dinosaurs lived some of it. They were created because there was no evolution. The dinosaurs were created in one shot, 1,000 years after the sun and the moon and the stars were created. So when they were created out of nowhere, there was still ice on the earth. It was melting because the sun had been created in the previous millennium. So at the beginning they lived through some of the Ice Age, and the scientists tell you, and you realize that they are lying because they are very incongruous. Some tell you that 60,000, thousands of years, and others tell you 66 million, and then another bastard tells you 200 million. The other jerk tells you no, billions, 3.3 billions. They pull the dates out of their ass, when in reality the dinosaurs were created, it would be 5,000 years before Christ. 7,000 years ago. It was not millions or billions of years ago, it was 7,000 years ago, but they only lived 1,000 years, and God sent them to hell. Right now let's get into that, and here it says that it was the 4th day he created the sun, the moon, the stars, and you commanded them to serve man who was to be made in the future, when on the 6th day the human being were to be created. And now the 5th. The 5th day you said to the 7th part in the water, the 7th part in which the water was gathered, you created animals, birds, and fish. These are the dinosaurs. Among the dinosaurs there are birds and fish. For example, the eagle is a dinosaur, the lizards, the crocodiles. All reptiles are dinosaurs. And so it came to pass, for the dumb water and without life brought forth living things at the commandment of God, for a sign, that all people might praise thy wondrous works. Here he gives you a key why the dinosaurs were created. He created them just for 1,000 years, and he created them for what? For a sign just to demonstrate the parable, the comparison between the biblical devil and these lizards, because these lizards were destructive, they were ugly, they were cold-blooded, and they were terrible. Why would God create a monster? Yes, this is a beast, a monster. Why? To compare them to the biblical devil, and to compare that these dinosaurs were suddenly destroyed after 1,000 years, and now you are going to see this because there is a group of Israelites, I don't want to mention names, that says that the dinosaurs are out there still hidden, and that one day they are going to come out like Godzilla. That is not what the Bible says. These dinosaurs were created to demonstrate the wonders of God, is a sign for the nations to understand. Because the devil is mentioned in Revelation, the serpent, the dragon. Why does he compare them to terrible reptiles? Because he is going to destroy them just like the dinosaurs. That's what they were created for. That's why they were created, just so that you can see the power of God. Create some terrible monsters, some beasts that Job calls behemoth and also says the same as Leviathan here. Create some gigantic and terrible monsters, cold-blooded too. Compare them with today's world elite who are terrible and cold-blooded just for that. So that you know the power of God. So you preserved here this word. In other translations it does not say that he preserved, it says that he ordained to make two animals, two types of dinosaurs. One you called Enoch, which in Job is called behemoth. This is the herbivore. Enoch is the herbivore, and the other is Leviathan, which is the carnivore, and you separated them from each other because the seventh part where the water was gathered, you couldn't have them both. That is, in the world before human beings and before the flood there was a mass of land that was called Pangaea, which the word Pangaea means Pangaea in Greek, all land or the whole earth. And it was just a very large continent that was later separated by the tectonic plates. Here is the tectonic plate separated during the flood. So in this land mass was 1 in 7 parts were lakes, springs, oceans. Water came from the bottom up. Then here is says that they could not be together because one was in the pastures and the other was in the springs, in the lakes, in the seas, which is the carnivorous Leviathan. And Enoch in Job called behemoth, which is the herbivore. You gave him one of the parts that had been dry, where there were no springs, rivers, seas, etc., so that he could live in it, in which there are 1,000 more mountains. To Leviathan you gave the wet seventh part, which is the same as what Job says. In Job he talks about the dinosaurs, and it says that Leviathan, which is the carnivore, was among the, how does it say? Between the rivers. We will go into what Job says in a bit. You gave Leviathan the wet seventh part, and hast kept him to devour whom thou wilt. And when in Psalm 104 it also talks about dinosaurs, and people misinterpret that this Leviathan dinosaur is found in the seas where the ships are that will return in a future time, and that is not what it says here. It says that Leviathan devoured what God wanted and when God wanted. And now we are going to read Psalm 104 so that they understand that Leviathan and behemoth, that is, the dinosaurs, existed on the 5th day. Yes, on the 5th day until the 6th day, and then they all died. Right now what exists are the descendants of the dinosaurs, those you can see, those are the only ones left. There is no hidden beast like Godzilla, there are no more of those, that simply devoured too much. For example, take a lion. When you have a domestic lion, you have to give it a lot. The truth is, I don't know, but a lot of pounds and pounds of food. Imagine a dinosaur, what it eats. You can't feed a dinosaur only at that time. When they lived alone, they devoured everything they wanted. Today there is no more, they don't have enough eat. And here it says finally on the 6th day. Here I'm not going to go into that anymore, but on the 6th day humans were created, that is, humans did not coexist with dinosaurs. So that's what 2nd Esdras says about dinosaurs. On the 5th day, two types were created, the herbivores and the carnivores. The herbivores were in the dry areas. Well, not dry, water came up from the ground. How do you say? The dew came out and grass grew all year, there was always food for the herbivore. But the carnivores lived in the wet areas, the springs, the rivers existed through the springs and the lakes. Everything existed through the springs. They were in the wet areas. Here it says the carnivores were in the humid areas, the herbivores in the dry and ate grass like cows. So that's what Esdras says. Now let's see what Job says. Job says about behemoth. What is this? Behemoth is the herbivore. Behold now behemoth which I made like you, grass eats like an ox. You see, the herbivore is the herbivore. You will see that it coincides with what Esdras says. Behold now his strength is in his loins and his vigor in the muscles of his belly. His tail moves like a cedar and the nerves of his thighs are woven together. The nerves of his thighs are woven together. Then here it says that his tail was like a cedar. A cedar is a very big tree. It exists in Lebanon. If its tail was like a huge tree, imagine what kind of animals they are. Here it describes more. Their bones are strong like bronze and their members like bars of iron. He is the beginning of the ways of God, because those were the first animals that were created before human beings. Whoever made it can make his sword approach him. Certainly the mountains, they produce grass for him, as I say. This is the herbivore that Esdras describes. Esdras describes Enoch and Leviathan. One eats grass in the dry parts and another among the wet parts. The carnivore. Now here is his strength. Oh, I already read this. Certainly the mountains produce grass for him and all the beasts of the field frolic there. He will lie down under the shadows in the hidden reeds, and in humid places the shadowy trees cover him. In other words, when the herbivore was hot, he would go under such a tree. Perhaps there was a little humidity there. The shadowy trees covered it with their shadow. The willows of the river surround it. It seems that it approached the rivers when it was hot. Although it ate in the mountains, it approached the springs and the shade when it was hot. The shadowy trees cover him with their shadow. The willows of the stream surround him. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. Now here it makes a little more sense. If the herbivore lives in the dry part, he would have to get close to the rivers to drink. So I imagine that when he gets closer, a carnivore could possibly even eat it, but he only went there to drink. Or when it was very hot, he taketh it with his eyes, his nose pierceth through snares. Now here in the next one, in Job 41, he talks about the carnivores. Here it is. You see, because the herbivore ate in the mountains, he ate grasses, he approached to drink water. The springs where the carnivores lived, where they could attack him, the carnivores. And now that Job mentions the wet parts, now he begins to describe Leviathan, which is the carnivore. Here in Job 41, canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? In other words, Leviathan is a dinosaur that lived among the springs and between the rivers. And here he tells you, can you catch Leviathan like a fish? No, it's a huge lizard. You can't catch it. Canst thou put an hook into his nose? Like an ox that has a nose ring, you tie a rope, and you can move it wherever you want. Or bore his jaw through with a thorn. Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? In other words, what it's describing is that these animals, they are not domestic animals. First, they did not exist when humans existed, but it is giving you an idea that you cannot fish that animal. You cannot domesticate it if it existed when humans existed. Dinosaurs still exist, but they are not this size, because lizards are dinosaurs. But these sizes, the size of Leviathan, which were the giants of the wet parts, and of Behemoth, which were the giants of the dry parts, this type of lizard no longer exists. And now we are going to see where it says that in the Bible, and here it is just describing to you that you can't put an earring in its nose and control it. You can't fish it, you can't handle it like any animal. That's the idea here in Job 41. Now let's see where else Leviathan is mentioned, because Leviathan, which is the carnivorous dinosaur, is mentioned here. In Job 41 and it is mentioned in Psalm 74 and Psalm 104 and in Isaiah and Job he is talking about a dinosaur. In Psalm 74 he is talking about the Egyptians. If you look at the context, Leviathan is the Egyptian empire and the heads of Leviathan were the pharaohs, and so here he is talking about the Egyptian empire and the pharaohs, and this is where he compares Leviathan with the Edomites, which he also compares in Revelation and in Daniel, and right now we are going to get into that here, as we already talked about how Job is talking about the dinosaurs. When he says Leviathan here, we are going to see that he is talking about Egypt in Psalm 74. Psalm 74 and 13, as you see, he is talking about the Exodus. You divided the sea with your power, the Red Sea, which is the Gulf of Aqaba. You broke the head of the monster in the waters. The monster is Egypt. The head is the Pharaoh. Here says you bruised the head of Leviathan, which is the Egyptian empire. Egyptian empire, the head is Pharaoh's. You realize here he is talking about the Exodus and the Egyptian empire and his head being Pharaoh, and here, Isaiah 27:1, is talking about Esau, but the rest is a dinosaur here, and here also a dinosaur in Isaiah 27 is talking about Esau. In that day Yahweh with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, which is a carnivorous dinosaur. That a dinosaur means a terrible lizard. That among the lizards are snakes, and there it says Leviathan the piercing serpent, even Leviathan that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon. That a dragon is also a lizard that is in the sea. Why does it say the sea? Because Leviathan was given the wet parts, which is the carnivorous lizard, comparing it to Esau in this case. So let's see how in Psalm 104 he also compares it to the dinosaurs and tells you what happened. They are not hiding there anymore. At least the gigantic dinosaurs do not exist. The gigantic dinosaurs no longer exist, and now we are going to see Psalm talks about the dinosaurs. Psalm 104 is talking about the creation here in Psalm 104, and then it comes when he creates the world. Who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. This is another scripture that shows that the world will never be destroyed. Ever. And after he created the world, the waters, and the mountains were created. Here he does not enter into the creation of the sun, the moon and the stars, but here he begins to talk about the dinosaurs. And no, you do not realize until the last part of Psalm 104 to the end of Psalm 104 in verse 25 here, but here he begins to talk about the dinosaurs. In other words, he tells you in general that he created the world that will never be destroyed. He created the waters and the mountains. Here he is already describing how the dinosaurs covered the earth. On the mountains were the waters, and your rebuke to your rebuke they fled. To the sound of thunder, to the sound of your thunder they rushed. Here he is talking about the dinosaurs. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys unto the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over. The dinosaurs have a limit that they will not cross, that they turn not again to cover the earth. There he is talking about the dinosaurs, and you don't realize it until he starts talking about, just as he gives you a summary of the creation, and until here in verse 25 you realize that they were the dinosaurs. Here says, O Lord, how manifold are thy works. In wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. Behold the great and wide sea, that in the sea like it says in Job and in Esdras, there lives Leviathan, the carnivorous dinosaur, wherein are things creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. There go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. If you don't read Job and if you don't read Esdras, you don't know what he is talking about. Leviathan, it is the giant carnivorous dinosaur that lived among the wet parts in the sea. Right here it says in the wide sea, these wait all upon thee, and this is where people get confused. They think that this is talking about a future time, and if you read Esdras and if you read the book of Genesis, and up here they say that these dinosaurs have he gave them their term in which they will not cross, they will not cover the earth again. They had a limit, and they will no longer cover the earth, and there are the ships, there is Leviathan that you made so that he could play these weight all upon thee. Here it seems that he is talking about the future. But he is talking about the past of the fifth day, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. That thou givest them they gather, thou openest thine hand, they are filled with good. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled, thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. See, these dinosaurs ceased to be and returned to the dust. Why? Because here it says that they ate their food in their time, they had their time of existence and ate everything that God gave them. It says, that thou givest them they gather, thou openest thine hand, they are filled with good, this. Just like it says in 2nd Esdras, what does it say, about Leviathan? You gave him the wet seventh part, that is the seas, and hast kept him to be devoured. This dude devoured what you wanted, and when you wanted, then their time has already passed. Here he is not talking about a future time, he is talking about the fifth day that has already passed and what happened to them, because the day has arrived when God hid his face, they are disturbed. You take away their breath and they stopped being, and they return to the dust that was when the asteroid fell, right? They're in Yucatan and they stopped being, they died to hell. And here it tells you, well, here it doesn't tell you why, but it says that he just removed his face. Like, I'm sick of you, go to hell. What he says is that he compares these lizards to Esau, who God also created Esau. Why would he create such a terrible human being, so cold-blooded, such a monster spiritually? Why would he create a monster so that one day he hides his face and destroys them, just like the dinosaurs? That's why he created them. That's why he created Esau, the devil. So here we already covered the part where it is the dinosaur and the part where it is the Egyptian Empire, as Genesis also describes the creation, but it does not describe, for example, the sun and the moon as it says here. The book of Esdras is the fourth day, it created the sun, the moon, and the stars. Here it tells you clearly, and in Genesis, it tells you because here it tells you the fourth day at the end, so the fourth day, it tells you that was the fourth day after the fourth day. The fourth day God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule over the day and the lesser light to rule over the night. Also made the stars as the sun, the moon, and the stars, and that was on the fourth day. Here it tells you what day it is at the end. Right then from here on it would be the fifth day, that would be the dinosaurs, but you don't realize that here. But since you already know that the dinosaurs were created on the fifth day, you can understand what he is talking about. Here it says, God said, let the water produce living beings, that are the dinosaurs, birds that fly over the earth in the open expanse of the heavens. And created God the great monsters. See, the dinosaurs, the great sea monsters, and every living being that moves, which is the age of the lizards and the reptiles in the waters, produced according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And because the birds are also from that time of the reptiles, and God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the birds multiply on earth. That was the fifth day. Those are the dinosaurs. See, the dinosaurs were the fifth day. They are the monsters. That a dinosaur is a terrible lizard. If you had not read 2nd Esdras 6, Job, and the book of Psalms, you would not have noticed this is talking about dinosaurs. And something else about creation, that since we are talking about creation, when he says that he talks about Eden and describes the 4 rivers. Eden is the whole planet Earth. At that time was what is called Pangaea, the whole world was called Eden, which scientists call Pangaea, when in the whole world was one continent. The continents did not exist at that time. Before tectonic plates moved, God created a garden in Eden, because Eden was the whole world, but there was a garden in Eden, and it is described as being between 4 rivers, and those 4 rivers are more or less the northern border of this Arabian tectonic plate. Well, the tectonic plate was going more or less the northern part, that went like so, that later became the Fertile Crescent. This is the Arabian plate. And the description in the Bible says that it says that the rivers, the limits of the rivers are 2 rivers down here and 2 rivers up here, and it tells you that one river is the one that covers the entire land of Havilah. The land of Havilah was the Arabian Peninsula, says Havilah and Sheba, who are descendants of Cush today, are this land of Arabs, but originally it was the land of Havilah, who are brothers of Nimrod, and Sheba, who are descendants of Cush and that land. So he is talking about this river today. It is a sea today, it is a Red Sea, but at the time when it was today they call it Pangaea. Right? When there was a continent together, at that time it did not exist. The Red Sea was flattened and it was nothing more than a spring. It was a river. So one of the rivers was the one that entered here and came out in the Gulf of Aqaba and the Jordan River. That is, one of the rivers is the one from Jordan that goes down to the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea. That was one of the rivers. The other river goes down to Ethiopia, which is the Nile River. The other one, the Bible says, that is near Assyria, which was next to the Tigris River, and the last river has the same name, which is the Euphrates. So it is between these 2 rivers, and it is in these 2 rivers, the Jordan and the Nile. So the Garden of Eden is what they call the Fertile Crescent. Here I had an image. They call the Fertile Crescent, since we are talking about Genesis Pangaea. There are several maps of Pangaea, but the one that would be correct is the one that would have the Fertile Crescent more or less in the center and a little to the east. Here it is. This would be the Garden of Eden. The Fertile Crescent is the Nile River, is the river of Jordan that flows like this. This is one of Jordan. The lower part becomes the river in the Gulf of Aqaba and the Red Sea, and the other limit is up here. The river. I mean, no, it wasn't exactly there, it was the surroundings of these rivers, the Jordan River, down to Aqaba and the Red Sea, the Nile River, the Tigris River, the river Euphrates. This was the Garden of Eden. That was more or less are the limits of the Arabian tectonic plate when it was just a continent. Now we are going to talk about why the dinosaurs were compared to Esau. One of the verses or passages in the Bible that compare them to Esau is Job, because Job was from the tribe of Issachar, who was an Israelite, and there are people who say that Job does not mention any of the patriarchs of Israel and does not mention anything from Israel. So he was not an Israelite. They say he was an Edomite because he lived in the land of Edom, but no, he existed at the time of Esau's grandson. What was his name? One of Esau's grandsons, Taman, I think his name was, one of the grandsons of Esau, so he was contemporary with the grandchildren of Esau, and Job was a grandson of Jacob, because it was Jacob, Issachar, which is the tribe that the Mexicans are from. It was Jacob, Issachar, and he was a grandson of Jacob, son of Issachar. Then he was contemporary of the grandchildren of Esau and Jacob. Then his brother, his ancestral brother, would be Esau. And what does it say about Esau here? It says, I have come to be the brother to dragons and the companion of ostriches. Both are animals created at the time of the dinosaurs. What is a jackal? A jackal, which in English says dragon. A dragon is a snake. A dragon. So there Esau is compared to dinosaur, a dragon, a jackal, a snake, a dinosaur, and of course, now we already talked about how Isaiah compares Esau to a snake and how they will be destroyed just like the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs had their time for 1,000 years, and then the day came when God turned his face and got tired of them and destroyed the hell out of them. He created them out of nowhere, and out of nowhere he destroyed them. And now here in Revelation 12 verse 9 says, and the dragon, that is talking about the Edomites, was cast out, the ancient serpent, which ancient snake is talking about Cain, of course, but before that, he created the dinosaurs just to demonstrate his power, just to compare them to these dragons, these terrible lizards. He created them only to compare them to the biblical devil. Today's world elite, the white race, created them just for that, and was cast out. The great dragon, the ancient serpent, which is the devil and Satan, who deceives the entire world, was cast to the ground, and his angels were cast down with him. Here he is already talking about when the Messiah returns, and destroys the Edomites, and here he also compares the dinosaurs with the devil with Esau, and he laid hold the dragon, the ancient serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Here he is talking about the Middle Ages, Dark Ages, and compares him to the dragon, the serpent, the devil, and well, these are the lizards/dinosaurs which are like the devil and Satan and Daniel. The terrible part and the dinosaur part is also mentioned in Daniel. Because a dinosaur is a terrible lizard that includes the eagles, and here it says after this I looked in the vision of the night, that is talking about the empires of the vision of Daniel. That he looked at these empires, it gets to the fourth beast he describes as terrible, which is Rome. What does it say after this? I saw in the night visions, and behold a fourth beast, that a dinosaur, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. Well, I already did a breakdown of Daniel 7, but what I wanted to point out that it also says that it is a terrible beast, but it does not tell you if it is a lizard or it is not a lizard, or if it is a type of reptile, but in 2nd Esdras it tells you that it is an eagle. Then the fourth beast is an eagle that is the Roman Empire, so you may wonder if eagles are dinosaurs. Yes. As you see, here the eagles are from the Jurassic period. It is a dinosaur, that is. He compares Esau the fourth beast with dragons, with snakes, with eagles. That they are all dinosaurs, and what happened to the dinosaurs suddenly? He sent them to hell. And what's going to happen to Esau? Suddenly they are going to be destroyed. That's in all the scriptures that here in the book of Malachi describes how God hates Esau and how he's going to be destroyed, just like the dinosaurs that in Psalms 104. Psalms 104 describes the destruction of the dinosaurs, and it reads, Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled, thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. This is what will happen to the Edomites after 1,000 years, the same as the dinosaurs that lived there 1,000 years. And our power, Yahweh, got tired of seeing them and told them to go to hell. So when he returns, the Messiah Yahweh will take 1,000 years to purify the world and put things in order, and after 1,000 years the same thing will happen to Esau. God is going to hide his face from the Edomites. He is going to take their breath away, and they are going to crumble into dust just like the dinosaurs.